Hey everyone. Team Hisshou here again for another review of a color faction of Hubworld Aidalon. I'm Alan.
And I'm Steven.
Pleasure to meet you guys again. Thanks for coming back. First time, welcome. Hope you enjoy. We'll be rating these again on this as of the last episode. Now that you've all fat and full of turkey, like I am, we'll be doing the same 5-point scale. 1, the below average card. That being said, 2 is an average card. 3 is a slightly above average card, meaning it should see play pretty heavily, at least in the color of its choice. Maybe some chances at slight crossplay. 4, moderate crossplay with other factions. Really good card, should see play in all of that color, regardless. Decks, regardless of what it is. And then 5, it will see play across many decks. Not every deck, but many decks. And it is a solid card in every shape and form. So that being said, we've done so far Old Eidolon in our first episode of these. We then moved to the Omniworks, and now we're moving on to the blue faction. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's take a look here if it lists it. It listed off the top there. Okay, well, the blue faction, the status quo, the peacekeepers as it were. You know what? It's quick and easy enough to look it up on my phone. That's what Senior Google Overlord of all lets us know. Okay. Alright. Doesn't want to tell me right away, but it's okay, because I can just look on Hubtechie. I won't mess with the one that we got streaming here. That way it doesn't mess anything up, but I'll look on my phone there. Alright. The Collective. And then next episode will be the Remnants. Okay. So yeah, I'll let you go first here. Okay. Good old Abnus.
Yep, Abnus Orzo, the Tireless Investigator. You can exhaust him for a shard, 5-card hand, 10 shard max. Reaction: after you complete a breach on a player's archives, exhaust this card and archive the top card of your commons. Archive 1 card at random from that player's council. So not only when you're playing this reaction ability do you have to exhaust him, you do have to archive the top card of your commons as well, to have your opponent archive a card from their council. So I think it plays into, again, the archives mechanism and strategy behind the Collective's blue faction. Abnus is very good, as you've seen maybe in some of our prior matches. I decked out against Alan as he was playing blue against me. We really got to see Abnus, going full force and working really good with Sergeant Cole, one of the agents under the blue faction or the Collectives faction. Very solid, I would argue. I think between, at least recently, me and Alan, he's definitely up there as one of probably our favorite Seekers out of out of the blue faction so far.
I see him being into a control strategy. Archive seems to be a longer wind up. You need to have a setup. Your guys are all tuning, so you're build. It's almost like a deck building game to a degree. When you're playing blue, you're building your engine, and once you get your engine humming, it's definitely where you want it to be. And you have to play with accordance that your opponent's going to be doing what they can to, possibly mess with that. So, I will say this. It is a really good card, and I do like Abnus a lot, so I'm not trying to, in any way, shape, or form mess with that. Trying to formulate my thought there. Sorry, guys. You do need to realize it comes at a cost. There is a negative cost to Abnus. It is the top card of your deck, and you don't necessarily know what that is. Now, if your opponent has done a delve on your council, you know exactly what that top card is. Maybe you don't care. You don't have that knowledge. You are running blind that you're throwing an agent into your archives and giving your opponent a free shot because it doesn't cost anything to grab anything from the archives. So, yes, cipher costs still need to be paid. I'm not saying otherwise, but it is something. And yes, you're getting a card from their hand, but that's at the cost of a card from your deck.
True.
So if I'm just using Abnus and I don't have any of the other mechanics of blue, which we will see because we've seen some in the preview deck, so we know they exist, but just Abnus on itself, you will deck before your opponent because your opponent draws one card and he loses one from his hand. You're drawing a card and then archiving a card every turn. Yeah. You are burning burning the candle at both ends. So if you're not equally getting cards from your opponent's deck, and you're not being thoughtful of the fact that you are losing an additional card outside of card draw, outside of anything else, each turn from your deck, you could play yourself into a corner.
Very true.
Now, I mean, that's just something to keep in mind. That in no way a detraction. I love this guy, but it would be something that you have to keep mind of. He is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
The sword that's facing your side is much smaller than the sword facing the opponent's side. Okay. So there is a huge advantage. But if you're just thinking, oh, I can use him willy-nilly and I'm not losing anything, there are possible barbs waiting to stick you in the side there. So
definitely if you don't have your pieces in play, Abnus can kind of turn into a glass cannon or work against you. So he's definitely up there, but I mean he's not the best, I would argue, but he's definitely a very good, once you get that engine humming, he's off to the races.
I think with the cards we've seen thus far, and we haven't seen any blue cards other than Abnus, I would put Abnus at number 3, number 2, bow packs, because you should have enough money that you don't mind blowing up their front line, so that way you're constantly adding extra free heat that saves you money. Because if I pay 5 to blow up your big thing in this front row right here, and then that means I don't have to pay 5 to get you from 4 to 5 heat. So ultimately, I'm spending that money and blowing up your resources and your board state.
True.
So ultimately, it's still money spent in the same direction, but with a bigger net advantage.
Agreed.
In the last episode, we talked about turn advantage as one of the 3 things you should look for in a card. And bow packs is definitely that, because it's taking the money you would spend to increase their heat, and it's also giving you a free blow up of a card in their grid. More often than not. So that's 2 for 1. That's definitely what you want. So Goldie first spot, and then Jax, Jaco, and Ace. And this is just off their raw ability. I'm not counting how they work with the cards because we had unfairly not seen blue or purple yet.
Yeah.
But just in a theoretical sense, with what they do, Goldie is just the sauce. And green is good if it requires you to play a certain way, but it's really good. It's very upfront. You're 2 for 1 and you're gaining action economy. And then Abness is really good. And when we say like first, second, and third, we're like talking about like an Olympic 100-meter race.
Yeah.
Like, there's no guy that's like 1 lap ahead of everyone. It's neck and neck. The difference between first, second, third, and fourth is like a fraction of a second.
I agree.
But Abness is third because ultimately you are risking your own deck in the process of that. But to gain hand advantage over your opponent by robbing them of a card, yes, it's at random. So that could be, but okay. Coda has 3 cards in his hand, and he's got 1 heat. And I was able to use Abness and get 1 card from their hand. Now when I bowl up to 2 heat, I get to see the other 2 cards.
Yeah.
So the list goes on for advantages of that. Like, lowering your opponent's hand and possibly getting the agents from there is huge. It just requires you to understand that you're playing a longer game and that you have to be present of all your resources while you're doing it.
At all times. So
you don't overextend.
Agreed.
Because also, and this will be the last thing, so sorry. Abness requires you to focus on the archive path to do that, which means your opponent knows that can set up traps efficiently. Because am I worried about you going camp? If I see Abness, it would behoove me to put every high costing obstacle in the archive path.
Yep.
So if that's the case, I kind of like, you have to be careful because maybe I bought Abness because it's the only choice as a seeker. So I want to be blue, so I have to be Abness, but I'm going to do nothing with archives. I'm like something completely different.
Yeah.
I'm blue for sake of blue.
Yeah.
Right? So you could get trapped. So don't just like go, oh, I see blue. I listen to Alan, always put everything in archives. But if you're noticing he is like, the second you see 2 archive runs, one in one turn and one next turn, and he goes back to archives, that's a good indicator that you can now focus
on like
taxing the archives over council or commons.
Agreed. Clog it up and make them pay.
Make them pay. So anyway, yeah. Barbican Gate. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. 1 for 1 obstacle with also every time it's confronted, the engaging player may exhaust a forge card in their grid. If they do not, you gain 2 money, 2 shards.
Which is awesome.
If it's discovered, which means in the council, if it's discovered in the commons, if it's discovered on the grid, if it's discovered in the archives, you're just going to gain 1. That is solid. And the reason it's solid is because when it's anywhere other, anywhere other than archives where it's free to just get rid of it, you're going to have to pay a presence of 4 to get rid of it. They're more than likely not going to do that. So it's going back to the deck. It's going back to your hand. It's going back face down on the in the grid.
Right.
So that's great. And if you pay the 1 for it, they're going to have to immediately pay 1 to get over it, which is what they're likely to do. They're not going to pay 5 to kill it.
No.
They're just going to pay the 1, and it's going to be a death by 1,000 cuts tax on their board state when they come at you. So it literally equalizes the game because I paid 1, you will immediately pay 1. You will probably exhaust a force card. You won't give me extra money. You're more than likely to do that, which they could exhaust something that's ultimately unimportant. So I don't want to say you gain an advantage from the exhaust card. But the fact is, they have to do something so you don't net advantage immediately. So you're not up 2 coins versus the opponent.
Yeah.
Because you both spent 1 and then you go up 2. That's a net gain immediately.
Agreed. They have to think about it.
Because obviously if they tap something that can produce shards or draw a card, you technically have removed that from their state too. But more than likely they'll tap something that they know that's inconsequential that you really are not focusing on. Like something like, just for points and purposes of here, like a like a waterway ferry that's already done its usefulness and you could care less about it. Like, yeah, it's still an obstacle, but maybe it's in a lane that the opponent hadn't been attacking, so it's like whatever or something like that.
I agree.
So more than likely, when the opponent, God, I'm in rant mode. When the opponent has an option, you should always know that you will get the less good option. When you get the option, you will always pick the thing that hurts them the most. When they get to pick something, they will pick the thing that hurts them the least. At least what they think hurts them the least.
Right.
They could make a mistake and choose the wrong thing.
True.
That's always possible, but you could always choose the wrong thing if you had a choice. So, 6 to 1, half dozen the other, that argument. But, so, I always look at these things as you really can't count it as a huge advantage when the opponent makes a choice on that. They could choose to give you money or they could choose to bow something. And when they bow something, they get to be the person that chooses what is bowed. More than likely, it won't count for nothing. You should think of it that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very situational, but good flexibility and adaptability with barbecuing. Yeah.
1 pip,
yeah,
great.
solid.
That means that there'll be a solid pullover for anyone,
Yeah.
so that goes to 4.
Yeah, it goes
Actually, honestly, I'll say that goes to 5.
I would say 5 as well.
'Cause
give it its flowers.
1 pip. If it was 2 pips, I might say 1.
Yeah.
Because maybe we keep speculating on this, and you're probably tired of us saying this. If a 3-3 deck is possible, that also means a 3-2-1 deck is possible, where you could buy 1 pip just for a couple 1s in a faction, do 2s from a second faction, and 3s from your main faction. So if a 3-3 is viable, a 3-2-1's also equally viable. So I'm still going to put it at a 4, but that could easily, if the 3-3 rule is an existent thing that's easily doable, that you don't lose from not having 4s in a faction, then this could become a 5. But we'd have to see the meta. That's a meta call.
Yeah, agreed. Capricious Informant. 2 shards. Wow. 2 shards instead of 3.
So he's got refund 1.
Yeah, and he's got a refund 1.
So yeah, we go from 3 to 2 with a refund 1 now added to it. But he's lost his instant ability.
Yeah. That's weird. While the card is forged, each agent and obstacle in your rival's front row gets -1 barricade cost. So, that's something. I guess
Still produces a shard.
Yeah, still produces a shard.
Presence was reduced to 2 from 4.
And he's got 1 pip. That's
2 for a shard game though.
Yeah.
Which refunds 1.
Yeah.
And it makes barricades
A
makes
lot.
running easier against your opponent.
Yeah.
I could
That's
see
not
this
bad.
in an aggro deck actually.
I could too. And with 1 pip, it's a lot of flexibility.
You would need the 2 up front, but when we talk about this, you should always look at this. Theoretically, you forge it right before you go switch turns, so your opponent can't mess with it. You pay the 2, immediately exhaust it for 1. The next turn comes up, you exhaust it for 1. It's paid for itself. And if it gets destroyed at that point, you get a refund 1. You're up 1 resource than where you started. So its ability to pay for itself, which is one thing that's going to be important for aggro decks because you need quick returns on investment, is huge. And it does not require this card to be unexhausted for its ability. It just says it has to be forged.
True.
So while it's exhausted, it's still reducing the costs of running against my opponent's front row.
True.
I think that key distinction, if it had to be ready, so you couldn't just get the money and run, maybe it would be less. But it's really interesting because that takes out a combo piece that we were using with Abnus.
Yeah. So.
Well, we
maybe
were
that
using
changes
it
Abnus's
opposite because we were doing it on ourselves. Yeah, because you look at the top 2 cards of yours, you can't do it to your opponent.
Yeah. But it was a good way to find stuff you needed and
get it out of the way of your opponent being able to draw it.
Exactly.
I think maybe that might be why they switched it because they got too many gotcha moments.
Yeah, there probably was.
But 1 pip, 2 cost isn't bad when it refunds 1. Like, the presence is low, and it's in that territory where someone's willing to drop it.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, I'm the first turn player of the first game. I'm a new player. I don't know about, like, forging towards the end to protect my assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forge it immediately, and I gain a shard.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent sees it and immediately pays 2 to drop it because I gave him the opportunity to do it before I could gain cost back. It will refund 1. I'm still at net 0. I'm down a card, but my opponent spent his action and his resources to net 0. Or
Right.
I still think it's okay.
Yeah. No, I would say it's a solid 4. Solid 4.
Yeah. Would you go on this one?
All
Since
right.
I kind of...
No, you're fine. 1 shard cost cargo inspector. It has an instant window effect.
So this is the 3rd in the cargo series. There was a cargo card in green, and then cargo list in orange.
So, yeah.
That was okay.
Yeah, I was sensing a theme with this. In this instant window, exhaust this card, draw 2 cards, archive 1 card from your council. So you basically get to draw 2 cards, and then of those 2 cards, you get to...
read it again.
Yeah, you exhaust the card. You basically draw 2 cards, and
from
then
your council, from your whole hand. You don't have to discard one of the 2 that you just drew.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get to then take your whole hand, your whole council hand,
find your weakest card,
and toss it.
Yeah. That's much better than Capricious and
Very good. This reminds me of
because you were Sophie's choice with Capricious. You had to literally pick one of those 2 cards to archive.
Exactly.
This is
very, very much good. Very much versatile.
Okay, here's the bet. What you bet is 3 or 4 pips.
Bet you it's 3.
Okay. I'm gonna go 4. I think this is gonna drawing 2 cards and then 1 from your entire council is such a good ability.
I think it's 3.
2.
Oh. Wow, blew both of our.
Look at that presence.
Yeah, that's insane. I would give that a 5. Honestly.
Yeah, that's a 5.
That's a hands down 5. No brainer right there. I think that's very good. You're able to cycle through cards in your commons to your council, to your hand in this case.
Now we know why Capricious Informant was remodded. They wanted this card, and if you had this and Capricious Informant, you could be drawing into like combo pieces constantly.
Yeah.
It would be a joke, honestly. So yeah, that necessitated change. But I would say I would take this 1,000 times out of 1,000 times
every time
over Capricious.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I don't
the
care
difference I cannot explain to you guys from a competitive perspective the difference between draw 2 cards, pick one of those 2 to get discarded, because ultimately archive is the same as discard. We haven't seen any cards. There might be a card that comes along that lets you like buy cards out of the archive, but right now archive is equal dead. You can't once it's there, it's there. I mean, yes, your opponent, it can pad stuff to help your opponent finding agents, so there's a little bit better benefit than discard is in other card games. But for purposes of being able to play a card, it's dead. It's dead in the water. So when you draw 2 cards and you got 2 banger cards and you know one of those has to go, versus I draw 2 cards and add them to a hand of like 4 cards, and then that card that's been sitting in my hand for 3 or 4 turns gets to go away because I'm never in hell going to play it in this matchup. And now I got 2 banger cards instead of 1 banger card. The difference is like night and day. It seems like a very subtle difference, but in that subtle difference, that 1 inch of difference in text wording is the difference between like in a competitive card game is the difference between like a $20 card and a $50 card.
Yep.
It's like
it's worthwhile. Yeah.
Both are good. Both do what they do, but one will charge you $20 for the card. The other one might get a banner right out from standard, and it's going to cost you $50.
Oh yeah,
because it's worded perfectly. So it's like chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a 5er, definitely.
Hands down.
Containment Funnel 3. Reaction: as a player confronts an adjacent card. So this has the potential to go 4 directions. More than likely, it's going to go 2 or 3 at most. You're rarely going to put this in a center spot, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, exhaust this card. Redirect that player to confront this card.
It's interesting. So is it confronting? I'm assuming it's just confronting it, but still in the same path.
This has a cipher cost, but it's not an agent.
That's weird.
Engaging player archives one card from their council.
Wow.
So when you go into it, you immediately hit the cipher or have to buck out.
Wow.
Before you can pay the 3. And it does generate a shard, so
Yeah.
the thing is, okay, I like this card, it has a lot of potential, but the fact that you have to exhaust this card for its ability means that it is less good than it could be, because theoretically you want to gain the shard. Yes, I know you're wanting to hold out, but the fact that you have to wait for your shard gain to do that for a 3 cost. That being said, as I look down here while we're looking, there was 4 pips. So, like, this is going to be either Bizarro side or main faction only. In Bizarro side, we mean if it's theoretically possible to make a good competitive deck where you pick a Seeker in 2 colors, 2 agents of color, so like picking Abnus and 2 blue agents, and then you go 4 into another color, which would seem counterproductive because you're supposed to be repping blue. Why is the majority of your deck a different color? But theoretically, there could be better Seekers fitted for what you're trying to do in another color. So you go that color, because thus far the Seekers only have a pip cost of 1.
Yep.
So, but 1 seems like foolish in any of these previews we've seen. 1 doesn't get you enough of anything, so we feel like you'd probably have to 2 to even make it worth it. And we're not even sure 2 in main, 4 in off is even viable or smart.
Right.
It's just theory. And it's just, but so that's what we mean by Bizarro main, because your main is technically the off color.
Yeah, and bear in mind, right, when we're talking about the pip cost, remember you can only have 6 agents in a deck, and you have to choose 6, and they can rep any faction color. But when we're looking at the pips on a card, those pips mean they have to have an equal number of those colors agents to be able to play that in the deck. So for those that may not be tracking what we're saying, we're looking at the pip cost at the bottom of each card. That is what we mean. So again, you have to be very careful what agents you're choosing when you're building your deck and trying to implement that card in your deck. You want to make sure that you at least have, again, that many agents or more.
And I'm going to also say that I am going to actively not rate this card, because I don't fully understand this card as a competitive player. I look at cards like a lawyer looks at a legal document. And because this doesn't explain itself explicitly, I would need to know how the rules work for this card before I could rate it. Because it says, before you confront a card, redirect it to this card. It doesn't say what happens after that. Do you go past the card that you redirected, or do you just go back to where you were in the chain? Is this just adding an extra one, so ultimately you would hit 4 cards? Or does this count as that? Because if it counts as confronting the other card, then it's even better, because it protects your
could be an
agent.
Could be,
But I think that this card would be broken if that's the case, because as long as this card is existing in the middle, you could put agents on all 4 sides, and you could never touch those agents until you got rid of this card.
I agree.
So, like, I don't know how, since we've not seen the use of redirect and what that means in the game, it wasn't explained in this, and there's nothing in the preview decks that go about redirection. I don't know exactly how that process is and the official terminology and how it works. My instinct from, working in the background helping game designers, testing things, and doing stuff I have the last decade, would be that the intention is that, okay, you've gone through card 1, you're about to go through card 2, and to the left of card 2 there, or right of, doesn't matter, is this card. You exhaust this card, the containment funnel, you moved them to confront this card, let's say that they go ahead and they archive a card from their council, and that's all they have to do because this isn't like an obstacle, so there's no obstacle cost. Mm-hmm. I then go back in front of card 2 and then continue on. It's just supposed to be a tax that it gets to add to any adjacent lane of an archive card, which plays into what they're wanting to do. I don't feel like it stops you from seeing that card because otherwise there could be a lot. Part of game design is positive play experience. And if you made a card that literally stops the opponent every turn from being able to hit the one agent they need to win or the one card that really is bothering them, that's no different than you trying to like kill the really annoying guy the blue player played and they keep playing counterspell.
Agreed.
You just like, okay, well I guess I don't get to like do the thing.
Anything.
Yeah, it's whatever. And you'd get mad, it would be a negative play experience. So I can't imagine it removes the interaction of the card. I think it just adds an extra step of tax.
I agree. Yeah. I'm hoping that's the outlook that's given.
So I'm not going to rate it, but assuming that it works like I think, it's a solid 3. It's not like amazing, but it does what the brand needs to do.
I agree. Yeah, it's a solid 3 to me. Shard cost of 1, Corner Goodman, Slab Sleuth. Reaction. As a player engages one of your agents, obstacles, or sources, exhaust this card and exile 1 card from your archives. This engaged card gets +3 presence until the engagement ends. Wow. So it's got a barricade cost of 3. You can exhaust it for a shard. Has a presence of 2. And yeah, for a 1 cost, I would say this is pretty dang solid.
I'd say it's solid too.
Yeah. I mean, what are you not engaging that's not an agent, an obstacle, or a source?
I agree. I'm going to 4 him. No, I'm going to 5 him. He'll probably see a lot of play as the one agent you're going to pull to help out. I'm leery because his ability requires exhaustion, so you're choosing either one or the other. And you actually have to get cards in your archives, where most of the stuff is like your opponent has to archive stuff. You don't have anything outside of the cargo one that puts stuff in your archives that we've seen thus far. Now, I'm sure we'll probably see more, and if I had seen the rest of the cards and he was the last card I saw, I might feel better about him, but he's still going to be prolific.
Yeah, my only thing is, like, I feel like if I were trying to get rid of my agents and I didn't want you to have them, I would be trying to discard my agents to my archive, clogging the archive lane, and then just waiting every 3 rounds to.
3-2 is a good number. You're going to want to put him in play because with no cipher and 2.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a 4, but yeah, I mean, he could be easily a 5, but I'm going to give him a 4.
I think I give him a 4 because we haven't seen Sergeant Cole, and Sergeant Cole was in the preview decks is a 1-drop agent too. With the cipher that your opponent exhausts a card in their archives path, making it very hard when discovered to grab him guaranteedly. So, and he works with Abnus, because again, after you complete a breach on archives, this is the preview version. It could be reworded or changed. We've already seen Capricious Informant change. But after you can do a breach on a player's archives, exhaust this card, and take 2 cards off the top of their deck, which is so solid. Also a 1-drop, also a shard. He's a 3-1, which is 1 less, but that cipher protects him more than 1 additional shard and presence would. So, provided Sergeant is still where he is, that means Corner's a 4. If Sergeant is like completely overhauled, then he could become a 5 because of his cheapness and lack of competition in the slot. Alright. Counselor Vrenax. Planetary Exchequer?
I think so. I think that's how you say it.
While it's 4 cost, while this card is forged, each card in your rival's grid gets +1 shard cost.
Wow.
So he's putting a tax on your opponent's grid. Interesting.
Barricade.
4 barricade and 1 presence. It does have a cipher. We'll go into that second. The 4 cost. This cipher is gonna, and he gives you a shard, but the 4 cost. Before I look at this cipher and what it does, I feel like this is a meta choice. Like, you got to be like a control deck. You're slowing your opponent down. I don't see this as a mainline choice because it has a 1. Now the cipher might be totally making up for the 1, but with a 1 drop, you're going to have to put him in play. He costs 4. He does this thing, but not a lot of players. Like, if you're an aggro player, you don't care that your opponent's paying more for your stuff. You're just trying to get at him. You want your stuff to be cheaper. You want you to be faster. You care less about their speed. So I don't know. Let's see what we got here. Engaged player exiles any number of cards with a total shard cost of 3 or more from their council. So you would have
that might even help the player though, right? Because certain agents might be 3 or more and they're being exiled from their hand. I don't know. That might backfire on the player more. You know.
Well, let's say the opponent has to discard a number of cards from their hand whose total cost is 3 or more.
Exile. It's not even in their archives. That's like boom. I got an agent in there.
Yeah, but they can choose whether they pay the cipher or not. When they see a cipher, you choose.
Yeah.
You can back out if it's too much.
Yeah.
When you discover it.
Yeah, I'm just. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I think this card's a 3 at best.
Yeah, like I said, it's a meta card.
Yeah.
Control players, assuming that control, tempo, and aggro make their way as a fundamental design opportunity in this game. And the reason I'm going ahead and assuming it does, even though we don't know everything about this game, the game hasn't even exist yet, is because I can count on my hands all the card games that have been created since Magic the Gathering, probably, that haven't devolved into aggro, tempo, and control. Or mid-range and control. And they may exist in a different form than you would think from one game to another, but there'll be ones that try to win in the first couple turns of the game, ones that try to win in about the middle of what one would consider an average game, and ones that try to win on the back end with bigger, like, brutish things.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, and again,
I mean, heck, even in Soulforge Fusion, which is a unique deck game that doesn't have any deck building in it, you still, like, pick the pre-done decks based over how fast you want to be. I had an aggro deck. You had about a mid-range deck, and then, like...
Yeah, I guess, it depends on what you're trying to go for as players.
So, you know...
Yeah, and again, it's all situational. You never know who your opponent's going to be.
So this is definitely, I think, meta choice. Control players will love this if they can get their hands on it. It's an agent, so they can get their hands on it by just picking the agent.
Right.
But whether they can afford to pick that color is... Dr. Twilight, I think he went up. I thought he was 3.
Thought he was...
Yeah, he's 3. He's gone up.
This is Shard.
So he's got 2 abilities, and now he only had 1. He still has the 1 card draw. He still has the 3 obstacle cost, and he still has the 3 presence. No cipher added. So what we're getting is a discover. But let's see if this exhausts this card and exile 1 card from your archives. Gain 3 shards. So that is still the same. Discovery, that's going to be new. Add 1 card from your exile to your archives.
Yeah, I mean, that's different. It looks like it's kind of self-fulfilling, right? Like, if you don't have any other cards left in your archives after you exile maybe the 1 archive card in your archives, then, like, you're going to basically be...
4, though, man. Yeah. That's rough.
I don't see a lot of people playing him.
I see, because we've now seen the cards that can pile stuff into your own archives, using that to gain 3 shards a turn.
Mm-hmm.
I can see him working. He's going to be in a control deck, because it's a heavy bruiser that's giving you the money you need to crush at the end.
100%. Yeah, he's definitely going to be a long game control.
Though the discovery gives me pause. Because why would you care to bring an exile to your archives unless you're trying to pad it to protect the things in your archives, which I get, but that doesn't seem like a good design for something that heavy.
Yeah.
To me, I'm waiting to see if there's a card that we're about to find either in purple or on our next episode or in this set that lets me pull cards from my archives back to my hand. To me, that makes more sense if there's a way that you could like get it from A to B back to your hand and play again for C.
I agree.
Alright.
1 shard Echo Field Lockup. While you have 3 or more cards in your archives, this card gets +3 presence. Discover if you have 3 or more cards in your archives, gain 3 shards. Wow.
Well, I mean, that's good.
That is good. 2 barricade cost, presence of 2, and 2 pips. I mean, I feel like this is a solid 3, in my opinion.
I'd give it a 4 because it's a 1 for 2 with a 2. So
yeah.
It's like, if that was a 1, then I'd be like, okay, whatever. But that's a solid 4. They're going to have to spend the first go around.
1, yeah.
And if you got 3 more archives, which you should have,
give it a boost.
You were literally going to 2/5. So it's going to be a permanent tax of 2.
That makes sense.
So I'll give it a 4 because 2 pips, any control deck that wants a wall can get this easily.
Yeah.
So,
I'll still hold it 3, but I see where you're coming from with it. I'm aligned.
Echo Field Registry. 2 cost, reaction. After you complete a breach on a district, which is interesting because it's not just the archives, you can use it anywhere. Exhaust this card. Shuffle 1 card from your archives into your commons. And then draw a card. And it gives you shards otherwise. With a 3 presence. Good thing it has a 3, because otherwise this would be ubiquitous into everything. Because I know what you're thinking by me saying that. But Alan, a lot of decks won't ever put anything in archives. But if you're playing in a tournament, you're going to expect to have a certain amount of blue players there. And if I can pay 2 to get cards back that...
Yeah, I would.
And then draw a card.
Yeah,
like
draw a card and gain a shard. Yeah. I don't know. I think this is very good.
I think it's a 4. I don't think it's crazy 5, but it's definitely a 4.
Yeah, 100% in agreement there. 3 cost, Echo Pomp Revoker, instant window. During a delve, exhaust this card and exile 2 cards from your archives. End the delve. End the delve?
Yeah.
You can exhaust it for a card, to draw a card. Without even looking at its presence, like, that's very good to me.
Yeah.
6 presents, 5 pips. That makes sense.
That's kind of your exclusive.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, so I would say it's a solid 3, but yeah, the fact that you can just end your opponent's delve is pretty strong.
Because it's blue only. At 5, you can assume this is blue only.
Yeah, and you're exiling cards from your archives too. So like, whatever you as yourself, as the player, put in your archives, boom, they're gone. So I think...
Yeah, I think the 2 cards from your archives is solid because if it was 3, it might be too heavy. If it was 1, it would be way too cheap. So yeah. I think this is well designed.
I agree. Very good.
Exo Export Levies is 0 cost. And it's an action. Exile 1 card from your archives. Gain 4 money.
Wow. Huge.
Yeah, it's calling in favors with 1 action, but requires your archive to be played.
Yeah.
It is a 3 cost moment, so because of that, again, it'll be less likely to be pulled in, so that's good. I say solid 3.
Solid 3? Yeah, I would agree. Very solid.
Oh, good old Eye Enforcers. Let's see if they've changed this one.
Yeah. Looks like the costs remain the same. The barricade costs remain the same. The confront is the same. The seek ability, if this card has not changed so far. Nothing's changed.
And survey says also the same with the 3 pip, which is good because these guys are brutal to
have. Yeah, you would not want them out and about in every deck. I will tell you that.
Not at a 3 obstacle cost.
No.
With a 5 presence. Like that's 8.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say they're a solid 3 to 4.
I'll give them a 4 because every blue deck should be running them.
I agree.
Like they're just because
they're that
even
good.
If you're like I'm trying to be faster and 4 is a little high pricey, great. Put them in places to be discovered.
Yep.
And then get 2 cards from your opponent's hand.
Every time.
Like you put 0. You put an action. You played an action to get 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Oh no! Like the action economy of that's ridiculous.
It's too good. I agree.
And with cards like Likely a Trap, where you can get more if they just try to go over it, now you're like, now I'm gonna like tax you even more to come possibly pick the choice I want you to pick, which is look at it so it implodes in your face.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah, it's definitely a solid 4.
I agree.
Even though blue should be going only with playing it more often than not, it's damn good. Enough to make it a 4.
True. 0 cost, eyes in the sky, confront. As you confront a card in a player's grid, they may lose 3 charge if they do not bypass that card. Whoa. That is something.
For 0.
Yeah, for 0.
2 pips.
And 2 pips. I would say if I was running any deck, I would probably have 1 or 2 of those at least in my deck. If I don't want to deal with the Iron Forces we just looked at prior, I think that would be solid. I mean, there's been a couple matches recently where we had 2 Iron Forces out there, and I was like, shoot, I don't want to deal with any of them. So, and I need to get to that agent in the back. So I would say that's a solid 5. That's just maybe that's me being thinking too good about it.
I think it has a high chance of finding itself pulled.
Yeah, I really enjoy the mechanic of this card
because they may lose.
Yeah, so they may
which
choose.
Means like, well, it's not only that. So you're giving them the choice, which is not usually optimal. But the fact is, if they do not bypass that card, so like if they have 2 or 1 or 0. That card literally could be played for the effect you want.
Yep.
To bypass.
Yeah.
So if your opponent's not watching
yeah.
what they're doing, that means this card isn't they may choose 3 and make me pay 3 to get over that Iron Forcer. This could be literally like, no, you don't have that choice because the option to do that is you can't afford.
Yep. That's true.
And the reason I say why that's so important is because this is a reaction to confrontation. We're past the instant window where you could then choose to tap shit to lose 3. That's a ship's gone sailed.
Yep.
I'm in the front of the card now, about to touch it and say hello. Then that reaction kicks in. You do not have the ability anymore to raise the money. So I've literally created the situation by watching the board and playing advantageously to bypass the card that I wanted to bypass by playing a card for 0. Yeah, which is huge. So yeah, it's definitely a 5. Good old Likely a Trap still was like, still 0.
Yep.
Okay. I noticed in the preview decks the artwork was a little muted. They kind of raised the contrast on this a little more. I like that.
Yeah. I did too.
Because I didn't realize it had the arrows until I was looking at that and I was like, this had arrows on it? And then I'm like, oh, it sure did. Oh, it's too muted in the preview decks here. Okay, reaction after a player completes an encounter with an unforged card in your grid. So,
yeah, nothing's changed.
Okay. For some reason that wording struck me weird. They may discover that card if they do not archive the top 2 cards of their common. So this is what we're talking about earlier, Like, you don't want to look at my eye enforcers? Well, why don't you...
Take a look.
Yeah,
take a look or face the penalty.
Or, yeah, take 2 off the commons. And then, God forbid, they look, and then you get 2 from their hand. And so, either way, it's a win-win. For you, you're getting stuff.
And no pip costs, so...
That's...
No pips. It's free agent.
I like to think that, or I can't help but wonder if that's like...
Maybe an error. Maybe not.
But even if it's a 1, that still puts it in the...
Yeah, I mean, it's still
doable.
Doable, yeah. I mean, what would you grade the card for?
I would grade it a 4 because, like, not every deck's gonna care about you discovering their face down cards that much that they're gonna put in. They're gonna agent in to another color just for that. So, but for those that use it, I could see it becoming moderately across the board to use as a color choice.
Okay. Alrighty. 3 shard cost, no Samara, undercover agent. Instant window during another player's delve. Exhaust this card. Redirect their delve to approach a grid slot adjacent to their current position. Wow. Seek. Look at the top 2 cards of engaging players' commons. You can exhaust it for a shard. It has a barricade cost of 3, presence of 2. Pretty interesting.
Interesting, but my rule still applies. We don't know how redirect actually works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would give this a 3 for now, but it is very interesting that you can redirect somebody's delve.
Well, this
especially
one's
adjacent.
better because unlike the other one that redirected it to it because it was adjacent to the situation and you taxed a card off of it, this could, like if you had an eye agents in the name, you put your eye agents right there in the middle of the front, and no matter which one they go, you're going to tax them for 3.
Yep.
And if they have to then go through the other 2, those 2 become worse than the one with the actual eye agents on it. Because at least the eye agents is only 1 of 3. The eye agents become a 1 of 4, the other 2. So
yeah, no, you're not wrong.
I say it could be huge, but also... No cipher, 3, was it 3-2? Yeah. You're going to want to play it. It costs 3. It's immediately a target. You're not going to put it in the lane with the eye agents if you did the middle lane because otherwise I can get rid of the eye agents and I can get rid of her in one delve with enough money. Seems to be a bad plot. Whereas putting it in the left or right lane in that situation would be better because she could protect herself by adding the eye agents on top of 2 other barriers in front of her or him. I don't know what. I think it's a solid 3 until we know more about redirect.
I agree.
Paper trail for 2. Looks like this one has a reaction. After you complete a breach on a player's archive, so in line with what we know, discover 1 card in their council. Interesting.
So you just pick a card?
The use of discover. Do I get to eradicate it if I discover it? Does it follow that? Like, do I get the chance to...
I don't know. It'd have to be...
Yeah. Or do I just get to see a card? Use the word discover instead of look at a card in their council.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we think about, like...
Discover, right?
Let's see, infiltrate. As you discover cards in a council during a breach, discover +2. So yeah, I guess you would be able to get rid of... I think that would confirm what we...
Yeah, so you'd be able to score it.
Yeah.
Or destroy it.
Yeah.
So that's actually huge. If it wasn't the case and just look for 2, then it would be like a joke.
Agreed.
It's 3 pips, keeping it from being easily pulled. Solid 4 because of that.
Agreed. I think it's very strong, very versatile. Shard cost of 1. Private Exo Bridge. 1 action cost. Exhaust this card and archive 1 card from your council. Gain 3 shards. You can also exhaust it to draw a card. Pretty interesting. If you don't like cards being in your hand, I guess maybe you want to flood your archives because maybe they're delving a lot in your archives and you want to add more cards but also gain some shard value out of that, then by all means. With the presence of 4 and a 3 pips, I think it's a 3. You know, it's all right. I don't think it's like wowza. You know.
Yeah, I'd say for what Blue's trying to do, it's a 4 because you already have a couple cards that require you to exile cards from your archive to gain 3 resources as well. So you need to feed that, so it's feeding it and providing you huge chunks of money in the process.
True.
So because of that, I'll give it a 4 because
it's a 1 cost. Yeah.
With a 4 presence, so it's doing what it needs to do, and it's replenishing the cards that you would archive. So you're drawing the card. So you can exhaust it to do that, or you could be drawing back to replenish. So it has good use.
Agreed.
Propaganda at 0. It is an action. Show another player an agent in your council or your archives. Gain 4 money. And that is 5.
I would give that like a 2.
No, not really. I would give that easily a 3.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to think of how many times you already seen the one, like
maybe
in your hand or whatnot. But also, from a competitive standpoint, redirection is huge.
maybe
If I can show you and start pulling you into a direction where I've already set traps. And gain 4 money for doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that's true.
Like, I set an eye agent and an eye agent in front of my archive. Then I put Sergeant Cole behind that. And then I show you an agent in my archives and I'm just like... Yeah, it's almost like trying to tilt my opponent.
Fair enough.
At 5, it's blue only, so it makes sense in that sense that you can do that. Plus, we also have cards like that one resource where you archive a card of your choice to gain 3 resources. Play this, I show the agent, I gain 4, I tap the thing, I move a card, the opponent doesn't know if it was the agent or not, into the archives.
True. Yeah.
Gain another 3.
Yeah.
That's 7 gained, and I've still obfuscated in the same action.
True.
So, I see potential. But, yeah, you definitely gotta be careful with what you're doing there. That's not a card for the faint of heart.
But it looks like our man of the hour, Sergeant Cole. Cost of 1, Precinct 204, 3rd level. Reaction, after you complete a breach on a player's archives, exhaust this card, archive the top 2 cards of their commons. So I don't think that's changed any at all.
Nope.
They have a barricade cost of 3, and you can also exhaust it for a shard. Let's see if it's presence. Its presence is 1. Engaging player exhausts a card on their archives path. So, I mean, hasn't changed. He's solid.
Yep.
We love Sergeant Cole.
Yeah, I highly view him as a 5. Because if you're going to pull blue, you're probably pulling cold to do it.
Yep, 5
at
indeed.
least at one choice, yeah.
Yeah, he's an easy 5.
So that definitely puts down the other one from 4 to 3. Because if you're picking between a 1-drop Cole and the 1-drop other guy, this one for days.
Hands down.
Yeah. Silent Interrogator. That's a 0 cost. And when it's discovered, if this card is in your grid, archive the bottom 4 cards of engaging player's commons. Holy crap. It has a 0 barricade. And a 4 presence.
Interesting. Never seen it where it actually just has like a 0 barricade.
It's a 3 because once you play it, it just sits there. The opponent hops over, hops through it, doesn't do anything.
I would agree.
But it is still a 3 and not a 2, because again, mill players, and blue is the color for that. And this takes 4 cards off of a 36 card deck.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is 1/9 of their deck in one card reveal. And if they interesting, you could reverse Bizarro with this card. Go 2 blue, 4 orange, and you would have access to the cards that could flip this back face down.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Not that anyone else would pick it up again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discover that.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it alone, yeah. Interesting.
Alright.
Trading Secrets. 0 cost. Instant window. Archive the top 2 cards of your commons and gain 2 shards. 4 pips. Yeah, I mean, I'd see that as a 2, really. I mean, 2 or 3.
Yeah, because they already got other ways of gaining money much easier. I'd put it as a 2.
Yeah, and for only 2 shards, I mean, maybe if it was 3, I'd give it a 3, but like, that's, I don't know.
Nope. I'm going to actively raise this to a 3 right now. It's instant speed.
Okay.
So when you need to gain money because something costed you more than you thought on your trail towards an agent,
then you can use that
to gain 2 at instant speed.
I agree. Okay. Turn me around on that.
I'd say 3 though. I'm not like going crazy to go 4 or anything.
No, but 3. You're right.
It makes it, because there's been so many games where we get hit by like 1 or 2 of an unexpected cost, and then we have to give up on grabbing the agent in a run where we knew where the agent was. And this would, because it doesn't need to be in the board state. You don't have to. You come straight from your hand to gain you that too.
True.
When you need it, so I could see that being useful. Not great, but it does have edge case. Twice as bad for 1. Reaction after you resolve a ability, a discover ability, resolve that ability again. Now, that is a subterfuge with 4 pips and the requirement. This is good as a 2. It is good for 1 deck and 1 deck only, in my opinion, which is a mill deck. Because you want to be able to combo that off of the one that does 4.
Yep.
And then do 8.
Agreed. You could Barbican Gates twice. You can as well. I mean, you could use this card for a lot of things in blue, to be fair.
Because that's 4.5 of your deck. It's not 4.5%. Because 8 cards out of 36 is much more significant. 4 cards out of 36 is 1/9.
True.
8 out of 36. It doesn't cleanly divide. Let's see, 4 goes into that, so that's 2/9 of a deck. Yeah, just doubles up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bad at all.
But paying 1 for that and it being conditional that you're waiting for a discovery to happen, you need to be 1 in the blue faction forcing it with likely a trap. You'd be running the other thing that, like, most of the discoverabilities, I haven't seen a discoverability like, man, if I could only double that, the game would be so much different at the cost of extra money and a card from my hand. So I feel like it's mill specific.
I agree. Very, very much so. 3 cost, Vulu Malu, 2 mines and 1. Reaction after you resolve a discoverability, exhaust this card. Resolve that ability again. Discover, if this card is in your grid, search your commons for a card, show it to another player, and add it to your council. Shuffling your commons, I guess is what it's trying to say there. So 3 barricade costs, 3 presence, and you can exhaust to draw a card. Seems pretty good. Way better than the prior card we just looked at.
Yeah.
I would not be against it. I think with this being an agent, you definitely have more versatility.
I'm gonna rate this a 4. I'm really thinking about 5.
Yeah, I want to say 5 too, but I'm gonna give it a 4. I feel like we've got to see what else is left in the.
Well, I'm thinking
all
of
the other card pools,
the other
or
decks.
the long decks.
I'd Sergeant Cole and Vulu Mallet because it tutors.
Yep.
There's no restriction on the card. I have to show it to you, my opponent, that it is in fact a card and what it was. But if you find it and you're gonna pay 3. 3's a good presence cause. It's not cheap, and then it's gonna let me tutor. If I can get it into play, then it's a 6 and draws me a card, which is fine too. It's gonna be It's gonna be prolific in what I'm now seeing shaping up in my mind is a 1-turn kill kind of like mill deck thing.
Yeah.
Where I force you to pop somehow the thing, and then I hit you for like 12.
Yeah.
To
Just
16 cards.
Something ridiculous.
I applaud that it says resolve that ability again. If it says double it, it could have been bad because you would double it and then it would be 8, and then you play the twice as bad and make it 16.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately this would make it 12.
Exactly.
Still, 12 of 36 cards is 1/3 your deck.
Yeah,
and
that's
one
tough.
discovery.
Yeah. Don't be putting pressure on me if that happened.
That would require 3 cards right now and 4 resources. 1 and 4, because he would need to be in play. So 4 total. This would need to be in your hand. This would need to be forged in play. And you would need the Silent Interrogator to be face down. So 3 cards, 1 of which is forged in play, and a total of 4 resources spent, but you could have spent the 3 on the previous turn, so ultimately you only need 1 the turn of so far for the 12 card combo. So, not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
And that was the last one, so definitely I see a lot of mid to long range. A lot of setup for this faction. Like, a lot of it requires cards to get into archives, cards to, be in your hand, cards to go from archives to exile. And a lot of, stalling cards, like in the delve. Do this. So it seems like long, kind of control.
Yeah.
Heavy.
As Blue usually tries to do in many games across the gaming universe. But yeah, I'm very happy that we got to discover this. Definitely a lot to think on and chew on as we think about deck building for the future meta.
I agree. Definitely an interesting bit. Again, thank you guys for watching. We hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and we hope that you will have, because it'll happen before our next episode airs. Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.